So, hello, this is English session part 21. Today I'm gonna talking about lesson 3. Lesson 3 is in about the frame, sensor size, lens, and type of lens. So what kind of lens are available? So, we are studying about this thing. It is really good to talk creative stuff in English because I can understand everything, and I am speaking in English, so I also practicing my English. So yes. So first thing I'm gonna talking about the image sensor. What is exactly image sensor and what does it do? The image sensor made up of light sensitive pixels. Obviously, these are the sensors are light sensitive pixels. You already knew that. The sensor capture and record the light and electronically create digital image. Control the amount of time needed to capture the photo. Sensor size is sensor area is different size depend on the device. A larger sensor will have higher quality and better depth of field. What is exactly image sensor for you? Image sensor is actually it converts image into the digital image. Okay, and that is called image sensor. Okay, there are so many million pixels was there, and it was really light sensitive. And in there is a photon. It's converted into the capture. There, some sort of technical stuff. I don't really know how the sensor works, but I just do know one thing. It convert image into the digital image in data format. So that all I know about image sensor. And there is one thing. Bigger image sensor is always better for quality. Yeah, but image sensor is kind of like a really expensive, and the operating machines for those operating machines who access the image sensor is really expensive. Okay, so mostly there are the some sort of image sensor is available, but there are the very different sizes according to the device. Okay, first of all, there is a full frame image sensor, and the height is 3.9 mm and width is 36 mm. Okay, so it's like a really full frame image sensor. Is actually used in a cinema scope camera, like RE or Red or some other. Right now, I seen some other DSLR camera or mirrorless camera have full-fledged image sensor. Okay, so if you have full frame image sensor, that means you can achieve the quality of cinema. Okay, so bigger image sensor is always better. Then another sensor and sensor size, that sensor size name is, there are the particular name of the size of the sensor. Yeah, a full frame image sensor has name is full frame because it's really bigger frame. Okay, and there is APS slash C, that is a height is a 15.8 mm and width is 23.6 mm. Mostly these image sensor are used in DSLR or mirrorless camera. Okay. Some of the high-end camera use full frame image sensor, but most of the DSLR camera contains APS/C sensor. Okay, it is a little bit less smaller, but it's good. Yeah, it's really amazing. Then there is a another sensor is a 4 by 3 microhertz sensor, and these sensor are used in camcorder or point and shoot camera. Okay, so at that camera it contain 4 by 3 microhertz sensor, micro four sensor. It has 13 mm width, sorry, 13 mm height, and 17.3 mm width. Um, then there is a 1 inch sensor. It is called a square sensor. Okay, basically these sensor are used in a GoPro or action camera. It has a 8.8 mm height and 13.2 mm width. Okay, so actually it's quite bigger than a mobile phone. Okay, and there is another sensor size is 1 by 1.63 inch. It has a 5.59 height and 8.38 mm width. So it is a really smallest sensor, and that sensor are used in a cell phone. Okay, so why the sensor has to be really small in every time? It's because of that the sensor is kind of like a really complicated machines. Okay, and it is kind of like a really light sensitive things. Okay, so we do need to protect it and we do need to care about it. Okay, DSLR or mirrorless camera, or should we say cine camera, those are kind of made for the uh, shooting purpose. Okay, but mostly cell phone is kind of like a purpose, has some sort of mobile and also shooting, but it's just like mobile for shooting, and there's a lots of things like you can call and you can um, reminder and you can do anything. Okay, on the cell phone. Okay, so and the mobile phone has a really small size, it's a portable device, and basically when the your machine is smaller, so that's why we need to put smaller sensor size. Yeah, we cannot put full frame image sensor on mobile phone. Why? Because there is lots of things happen, like a bigger sensor, that means we have to cool it down while shooting because it gonna heat it up. Okay, and how we cool in the mobile phone, air cool or water cool, because mobile is a really compact machine and doesn't have any space at all. So right now in today's technology, it's kind of like a really impossible to put full frame image sensor in mobile phone, but I'm sure one day it will. Okay, one day it will change, whatever. But right now in mobile cell phone camera there is a really smaller sensor. Okay, but what is happen when you have smaller image sensor? Well, the quality is always be amazing, like it's a 1080p and it's a 1080p in red camera and 1080p in mobile camera. Yeah, it's not that thing. Yeah, on the paperwork it looks exactly like that, but when you saw the actual footage from the red or RE camera and you can compare with mobile camera, you can easily say this is footage from the mobile phone and this is footage from the camera. So you can actually sense those things. Okay, So, and that is all this thing happened just because of the image sensor. So image sensor is quite a really important role in the camera. Now the full frame. A full frame sensor refers to 35 sensor size. All focal length mentioned in the lesson will be based on the sensor size. So full frame is a really bigger frame. Then there is a lens. Okay, right now I'm talking about the lenses. But before we talk about the lens, we do need to understand the focal length. And what is focal length? It is the distance where the photo became focus in the lens. Measure from the camera image sensor. To simplify, the lower the number, the wider the lens and the photo. Higher and the higher the number, the closer the lens and photo. Ah, ठेवून दे जिथे पसरतो तुम्ही नंतर. So, so what is exactly a focal length? Focal length is actually it is a distance where the subject has to be focused. Like if I have 50 lens, so I need to put the subject uh, after the 50 distance. It's kind of like a really close distance, but you cannot put the subject is really closer than the 50 it will get blur, it cannot be focused. Okay, so you definitely put the subjects after the 50 it's practically depend upon the lenses. Okay, there are some sort of 18 lens, 200 lens, or 400 lens, 85 lens. So it's just like the camera or lens will decide when the image is will focus. Okay, what is the minimum distance required for the focusing the subject? Okay, so most of the camera has mostly the lenses has some sort of name like 10 to 24 is kind of like a wide 24 to 50 it's kind of like a general, 70 to 300 is kind of like a telephoto lens, and after 300 to again it's became super telephoto lens. Okay, so mostly the lens are categorized by the focal length. Okay, and everybody's talking about the focal length, and focal length is really important. Okay, it is not too much tough, but when you do understand, it's kind of like a really easy. Okay, so yes, is in the cell phone, does it have some sort of focal length? Yes, actually it is. Yes, but the cell phone will decide which lens need to be turned on. Okay, most of the time cell phone doesn't have a ring or adjustment ring, or we don't know exactly what is the focal length of our camera. So how should we know when the subject it will get focused, what is the minimum distance required for focusing? So mostly the most cell phone has a three different lenses built in. Actually right now it's kind of like a 1 or 2 years ago. Okay, but before that 1 or 2 year before, the mostly the cell phone has a one camera or two camera. Okay, and those are the kind of built-in camera. So camera will phone will decide which camera we need for this shoot. Okay, when subject is kind of like a really closer, so phone will set wide angle lens. Okay, then when the subject is too much far away, then phone will set telephoto lens. And when the subject is kind of like a really normal distance, at that time phone will decide general lens. But most of the time it was kind of like a really manual thing also. Yes, like you can set by manually, you can set telephoto or general or wide. It's all depend upon you. Okay, but mostly the cell phone has a focusing area which is really less, almost like mostly 10 mm to 15 mm. And 10 mm to 15 mm, that is really closer distance, like from the lens. So it is really closer distance. Okay, so we don't need to worried about that. Then another thing is that about GoPro. Yes, because GoPro doesn't have a really interchangeable lens. So how should we know what is the minimum focal length of the GoPro? Actually, there is a GoPro has always a wide angle, because there is only one lens is available, is wide angle lens, and wide angle has a really very less focal distance, like 10 mm to 15 mm, which is really less. Okay, so at that time we don't need to worried about focusing. Yeah, it will always be focus, because GoPro is meant to be focusing every time. Okay, so yes. Focal length explain. There is a point in the lens when the image comes into the focus. The point is measured from the image sensor or film. Uh, Sensor size is also a factor. That is where the comes from. Wide lens will have the point of focus um, close to the sensor. The telephoto lens will have further away. This is why these lenses are much longer. While you can saw some sort of lenses which are kind of like a really heavy and really longer. Why these lenses have really longer? Because of that, it has a variable focal length. If you have 85 to 300 focal length, that means your lens is a telephoto lens. Okay, and it when you have 300 so it is kind of like a really bigger size. Okay, bigger length from the image sensor, so it takes some space. Okay, so it just like from the image sensor to the focusing subject, it takes almost like a 300 that means almost like 30 centimeter. Okay, 30 centimeter, right? Yeah, 30 centimeter. So it is kind of like a really big. So telephoto is always be bigger and longer. Okay, but wide angle has a really minimum focal length, so it is always be really smaller lens or short lens. But telephoto lens is always a really bigger or longer lens. Then there is a zoom lens. Any lens with a variable and interchangeable focal length is considered as a zoom lens. Zoom simplify the lens ability to zoom and in and out. It does not necessarily means it is used for away from subject. Mostly zoom lens is also called as telephoto lens. Yes, But a telephoto lens is also a zoom lens, but there is also kit lens. It has some sort of zoom capacity. So yes, you can zoom it, but not too much. It's a variable and interchangeable focal length. Okay, so then fixed or prime lens, also known as the prime lens, any lens that has a fixed focal length. That means the range does not change. And then there is a fixed focal length, that means prime lens. And prime lens is a really good lens, yeah, because there is really less variable things inside the lens. Everything is kind of fixed. So we don't need to worried about focusing. It is this lens will quickly focus the subject. So and most of the filmmaker use fixed focal lens or prime lens, because prime lens has a good quality of image and it does not distort. It always good and it take a really less time for focusing. So I usually prefer a prime lens, but prime lens is bit of expensive rather than variable interchangeable lens. Yes, but the quality of the image or quality of the product is always be better from the prime lens. So yes. Then there is a cine lens. Okay, so what is cine lens? Specialized lens for the highest production. Cine lens is a cine lens in a sensor are some as photography lens, but with some key different focus, stop, and poise. Cine lens are designed for motion picture and collaboration. These are also declick, meaning no sound when changing the stops. Cine lens means such a lens which are used in cinema. So those lens called cine lens, and those are really expensive. Obviously, those are fixed focal length, but there are so many things inside the cine lens, because when you have cine lens, the quality of the image is even better than the prime lens. Okay, and it always be good. It is really expensive, and it can be used for the cinema and others. Okay, and also cine lens cannot zoom. So when you do need to zoom, you just physically uh, closer to the subject. Okay, then there is optical zoom. What is optical zoom? The camera lens itself zoom in out. This means we can change for wide angle to zoom in angle. Actually measure as 3x, 4x, etc. This means if the 22 is as a max, zoom up to 66 mm. So what is exactly optical zoom? Optical zoom is exactly like the telephoto lens, is not too much, yes, but telephoto lens has a variable focal length. Okay, but optical zoom, that means it can zoom from 3x to 5x to 8x. Usually optical zooms are available in a cell phone. Okay, it's not available in a DSLR or mirrorless camera. It is always be available in a cell phone, because cell phone doesn't have uh, space for variable interchangeable focal length, so they use optical lens. Okay, so optical lens is a fixed but interchangeable variable focal length. So then there is a digital zoom. So what is digital zoom? Digital zoom is done by the zooming on the pixels. This means effectively we are zooming in on the photo itself. More pixel will means better digital zoom. Even then, digital zoom is usually poor quality and uh, and should only be used as a last resort or last part. Optical, sorry, digital zoom is not good. Most of the filmmaker don't really do a digital zoom, but in cell phone camera we can zoom. Why we are optical zoom? That means we are zooming in pixels, not zooming in actual optical. So when you are zooming pixel, uh, that means you are zooming in resolutions, and when you are zoom too much, the quality of the image goes really really creepy or really not good. So optical zooms cannot use. Okay, it sometimes it can use in post production, but most of the filmmaker don't really do that. When you are zoom in optical, it's zoom in digital, it's not good. But some filmmakers do. Because of that, they have some sort of millions of pixels, then it will be okay to do that, because you have almost like 8 million pixels, or your quality is a 8K or 4K, then you can zoom it. Okay, but I'm not recommending this thing, because while you are zooming, that means you are losing the quality of resolution. So you do need to aware of that. Then there is angle of view. I'm asking the questions: what is the full angle of human vision? 100 degree, 130 degree, 160 degree, or 190 degree? We can see 130 degree from our eyeball. Okay, so our the degree of vision is 130 degree. Okay, but some sort of things we are focusing, and in front of our eyes is 50 degree is always be focus. And when you can see some sort of edge at your vision, it's not in focus, but we can sense it is actually available there. Okay, so we cannot be blur. Yeah, we just like focus and unfocus, because we have two camera. Actually we have two eyes, and that means we can sense the depth of the subject. Okay, so but the camera doesn't sense the depth actually. But most of the full-fledged or full-frame camera, they have really modern technology. They can sense the depth, and they can sense where is the subject and how far away the subject. Then there is a lens type. In built lens, many camera phone will typically have one lens, but more advanced phone will have two or even three lens. There are standard, and then general, and then telephoto. And then what is smartphone lens? Okay, so right now I don't have some sort of things to say right now, because I just feel like really tired. Not tired, but I just don't want to talk right now. But you have to do it, man. Yeah, you want to. If you want to improve your English, you want to keep doing this. So you do need to understand the importance of.